Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Planning Committee of October 2021. If you're looking at the screen, it does say September, but slight mistake. We are on the 5th of October. Go straight into the agenda. I will just mention, actually, at the end of tonight's meeting, there's a brief presentation from Richard Powell, so if all members could stay behind at the end of the meeting, that would be appreciated. Into the agenda, apologies for absence. I've got apologies from Councillor Marie Bailey. Are there any other apologies that anyone's aware of? No. Okay, thank you. On to item 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any comments, or is everybody happy that they're a true record, in which case can I have someone to move and second, please? Blimey, the arms going up everywhere. Councillor Goodall and Councillor Jay. Sorry, Councillor Brindley, I think they just beat you to it. I'll unless anyone speaks up in the next 10 seconds, I'll sign those as a true record then. Yeah, I'll take silence as affirmation. Are there any declarations of interest relating to applications on tonight's agenda? I'd hope not, and there aren't. Good. Okay, there's just one application on the agenda this evening. It's number 0556 2018. It's a reserved matters application for 91 dwellings. It's phase 4C at the former municipal golf course, Eagle Drive. Before we go into the presentation, just to remind everyone, when it comes to questions and debate, this is reserved matters, so it's the detail of the site, the appearance and the layout and all that kind of stuff. The principle of development has already been agreed and approved at a previous meeting. So, Sally, I'll hand over to yourself.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the reason why we had the previous agenda, previous front page of the agenda, was because we wanted to just refer you back to this plan that's on the screen at the moment, which effectively sets the setting for the golf course applications. If you recall from last month, we were looking at phase 4A and B, which is sort of towards the bottom of the picture, next to the woodland, the community woodland area, and now we're looking at the very final phase, which is right at the southern end of the southern tip of the screen. It's phase 4C, sometimes called phase 4C Harwood. I'm not quite sure why, but that's the one that we're looking at tonight. Unfortunately, the two didn't come together last month, but we're looking at the sort of final sweep up of the former golf course site. Excuse me, tonight. So the application is for 91 dwellings. Jodie, if you can perhaps put a layout out on the... Yeah, it'll be on the next presentation. This is all from the previous one. Yeah, that's the one that you approved last month, which is phase 4B. But if we can go to the October presentation. It should be within your papers anyway. So there is excuse me, there is a layout which shows all the 91 dwellings. Basically, it's looking at a very similar layout to what's been approved on previous phases. As you're probably aware, we've got a total of 1,037 dwellings altogether across the whole of the golf course site in various phases that have been approved over the years. The report you've got in front of you goes through the various different phases and the numbers that have been approved, and you'll also see on page 13 there's a number of different discharges of conditions and reserved matters that have already been agreed. So, as I say, this is now for 91 dwellings, similar to previous phases in that it's a variety of different house types. Just looking to see if we can get No, it's not coming up on there anyway. But a variety of different house types, some detached, some smaller dwellings, some semi-detached, and a couple of terraces, and also some apartment blocks, which is again is something you've seen before on previous phases. So essentially, the issues, as with the previous application you saw last time, is regarding the overall policy context. And the layout, and in particular, we've had some issues with highways which have been sorted, the scale and appearance, landscaping, which also includes some reference to ecology, and then the flood risk issues as well. So, in terms of policy, there's a couple of minor amendments to the report. The paragraph 6.2.3, it does say that this application provides 7 affordable dwellings, which equates to 8%. That's actually been updated since, and it's a previous comment. So it is actually 16 affordable dwellings now, not 7. So that's an increase in affordable, and therefore it means it's more akin to the requirement that we want, which is 20% overall. So that's a bonus on that point, but it's just a mistake in the report. It's also referred to a little bit further down in paragraph 6.2.5. That also refers to the numbers, the percentages as well. Altogether, excuse me. Altogether, the proposal. Ah, right. Yes. Okay, we're there now. If you go down one more. Okay, so that's the layout which I was just talking about. So we've got a sort of linear road running through the middle, and the various different house types, which we've got some further details of in a minute. In terms of policy, then the mix of dwellings is compliant with your policy HG5. It says in the report what percentage we require for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and 4 plus bedrooms, and it's generally compliant with that policy. And then we're also looking overall, because this is the last phase, the final phase. We need to make sure that all the policy figures add up over the whole of the development. So in that respect, again, this now complies with policy HG5. So overall in the site we've got 4% of 1 beds, which is exactly what we require. We've got 40% 2 beds, whereas the policy says 42, so it's there or thereabouts. 39% 3 beds, which is what we want, and 17% of 4 and 5 beds. So overall, over the whole site, this is what we're trying to achieve, that overall mix. In terms of density, I know there was some concern last month about density. Again, overall, we're at a density of about 28.8 dwellings per hectare. So that's actually slightly below what the policy requirement is. We would normally say 30 to 40 dwellings per hectare. But on this particular site, not just this portion, but the whole of the site, because of the constraints on the site, the amount of woodland, the amount of undulating land, and various constraints within the whole of the site, it has proved a little bit more difficult to get quite such high densities. So it's slightly below what was required, but it's considered to be acceptable and has been accepted across other phases of the development. So overall, we've got 1,037 dwellings, and the outline originally said up to 1,100 dwellings. So we're 63 off that. So it's again, given that whole number of dwellings and the constraints on the site, it's considered to be acceptable there. In terms of the layout, we've had a few details really with the Highway Authority in terms of visibility displays around the junctions, and it's resulted in quite a number of conditions which are again on the report. There's several of them that relate to highways, but that's something that's been agreed now. And then, yeah, looking on the screen at the moment, you've got an idea of the house types. Again, quite typical of the Red Road designs that you've seen across the whole of the phases. The top row, you've got the flats, the apartments, I should say, which is sort of an L-shaped block, and then various 1930s sort of style houses, which is very typical of their designs. And then you've got a few cross sections below that, which are indicated on the plan. So that's something which is, as I say, been agreed on other phases. It's got a good mix of materials and styles, and it is really quite attractive designs overall. The other issues we've had, or the other reference in the report is regarding trees and landscaping. There are some trees around the boundaries of the site which are retained. Less of a problem, I think, on this particular portion compared to some of the other parts of the site, but we're retaining as much as possible, and there is new landscaping as well. We've had some issues with the Highway Authority about putting new trees within the highway, because obviously trees tend to grow quite large, and if they're within the highway it causes problems, so we've had some of those changed into shrubs. And then the only other issue, I think, was in respect of drainage, and there was a requirement from the local lead flood authority, the LLFA, to provide details, full drainage details, before any of the development progresses any further. So that's a condition that's been added, and it is in the report as well. So, as I say, overall, the development meets with the general policy requirements, and it nicely completes the overall golf course development. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Sally, for that presentation. We'll take questions for points of clarification. I don't want to start a debate at this stage. It is just questions to get points clarified. So does anybody have anything they'd like to raise with Sally, please? Councillor Pritchard.
If I could ask, you mentioned discussions with highways and issues resolved. What were the discussions about? Because my concerns on the new estates is the width of the roadways and the ability to get refuse collection ambulances or fire engines down them. Are the roadways of an adequate size? And if you can explain the issues with highways that we have talked about, unless it's just trees and shrubs, that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Sally.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just looking on page 14 of the report, 14 and 15. You'll see there's a number of points that highways have made. Most of the issues they had were, as I say, about visibility displays around the corners. So any point where a cul-de-sac joins the main spine road, it's getting appropriate visibility displays across those. So making sure the dwellings are set back or parking spaces are set back. So that's caused quite a number of issues with them. But you'll see on the conditions and also on those pages it refers to particular plots, so we've gone through every single plot to check that they comply and you've got appropriate visibility displays. The another issue was about car parking standards, just making sure there's enough car parking provided in accordance with your standards. For instance, for the flats, there's a requirement for 1.25 spaces per unit, so it's making sure we got that. And other house types, it depends on the number of bedrooms that you've got as to how many parking spaces you provide. I think that's generally it. The width of the road was not something that has been raised previously. I think they'd always had it at the adequate size, but again, it's about the visibility displays and the design speeds using the road, so that's been addressed as well. Just looking on the conditions, if there's anything particular there. Just ensuring that cycle storage is provided as well. That's another key thing that the Highway Authority always want to make sure that is provided. But Yeah, I think that's it, and yeah, it does. It certainly does. The width of the road does comply with the guidance that the Highway Authority have raised.
Thank you, Sally. Councillor Pritchard, does that answer your question?
Just about, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Brindley.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sally. Just a quick question. How do you arrive at 1.25 spaces per dwelling on the flats? My experience would lead me to believe that that may cause two issues later on.
Sally.
Yeah, Chairman. This so it's on page 14. Car parking standards for self-contained flats and apartments. There is a requirement, so this is in your local plan. It's in the space standards that are laid out there. 1 space per flat for residents and 1 space per 4 flats for visitors. So if you've got 5 flats, for instance, you're going to need 1 space for each one, and then 1 more space for visitors to all of those flats. But it's a standard that's already agreed and laid out. So. It's not something that we have devised. It's been in conjunction with the Highway Authority since the local plan was adopted. Okay.
Thanks, Sally. Councillor Brindley.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. If I can, Chair, maybe suggest that we look at that in future local plans, because I don't believe that's adequate and certainly presents problems further down the line.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I don't see any hands. Sally, have you got anything you want to say to sum up, or before we move into debate? Cool. Okay, into debate then. Does anybody want to start us off? Councillor J.
Right. I think same as the last one, that there's not much to debate, right? It ticks all of the planning boxes, ticks all of the local plan boxes, less dense than it had to be, than it could have been. It's got good greenery, so it's a no-brainer, and happy to move if we get to that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Pritchard next.
Just a thought, all the open space, is that to be maintained by the developer for a while, or is that something that's handed over to TBC to maintain straight away? If it is handed over to TBC straight away, are we doing an inspection to ensure that what we're going to be maintaining is actually maintainable, not full of rubble, bricks and building waste?
I'll allow that as a question, Sally.
Sorry.
It was a question, yes. Yeah, I think you're possibly referring to the community woodland area, which is the open space that.
Not just the woodland area, the verges and anywhere else where there is grass.
Yeah.
To be maintained.
Yeah. That will be adopted by the council in due course, and yes, there will be a programme of maintenance for that and inspection. So it's done all as part of a Section 38 agreement, I think it is, that covers all of those details.
Thanks, Councillor Pritchard. It was a reasonable question anyway, worth asking. Councillor Goodall next.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to concur with Councillor J, really, I think there's nothing particularly controversial, I think, with this development, and fits in with the existing portions of development, so happy to second.
Okay. Councillor J, you were actually moving. Good. In that case, we've got a mover and a seconder for this application, and I'm prepared to take it straight to the vote. So, all in favour? That looks to be unanimous. Thank you very much. That application has been passed, and I will close the meeting at 6:20. Thank you all.